I was watching the news and I heard a story about a father driving down the road. His wife was named Michelle and he had a son. The father fell asleep on the wheel and crashed into a tree. Him and Michelle were injured, but the son had passed. How strange. I called my best friend, who told me he saw a creepy and disturbing Veggietales lost episode, and I told him that it was on the news, that it just happened on the tape he saw. I also told him I saw a disturbing episode of Veggietales, and he was shocked to hear this. He was glad I believed him because his aunt and uncle didn't, and he said he'd be leaving to take a drive to the Grand Canyon. After that, I wound up hanging up, and then I went to a corner and said, "There are more of these episodes out there." Friday, July 26, 2019, Charlotte, North Carolina. God made you special and He loves you very much. This quote is all I can think of now that I just saw that episode. I was normal about it, and I didn't have nightmares about it. But then I found out about what my friend decided to do at the Grand Canyon. Now he's probably dead. All thanks to a stupid Veggietales tape that probably shouldn't have driven him this insane anyway. This is driving me insane. Knowledge of other Veggietales lost episodes existing is haunting my mind. Now all I can think of is the Change Matters episode. Why did it have to come to this? If you're going to make a disturbing episode of a TV show, why choose Veggietales? After tons of research, I found the answer. The person who made the episode that my best friend was talking about was made by some stupid Satanist who ran around enslaving people and forcing them to make creepy versions of Veggietales episodes as a stupid passion project. Now that person is in prison, and I'm pretty sure he's in there for good. Just comes to show how crazy people can do crazy things in their if their mind tells them to. In case you're lost, keep in mind yesterday I watched an aforementioned Change Matter episode, but in order to not sound redundant, I won't include the details of the episode. However, I'd like to mention that this was a very sad and shocking finale to the Veggietales saga, or so I thought it was. I recently found out the other Veggietales lost episodes existed out there, both online and in real life. Some were sold on Amazon, some were sold on eBay, others were sold on cartoonsforsaleonline.com, and so on and so forth. I can't really keep count of everything. God, I just can't believe that they just keep coming. Someone should put a stop to these. Why are there so many of these crazy people in the world? I parked my car next to the edge of the Grand Canyon, and I was all set to jump off. But then I remembered. God made you special and He loves you very much. Sure, I may have witnessed a possessed lost episode featuring the death of Junior Asparagus, but really? Why in the world was I sitting there and doing this over something as stupid as a tape? With that in mind, I decided to ditch my original plans and head on back home. Knowing my original desertion was completely ridiculous and pointless, I drove back to my house, and for some reason, my aunt and uncle were home. Apparently they were disinterested in my belief of the scary Veggietales episode, so they just gave me an eye roll and walked upstairs. This was kind of an old welcome back, if you ask me. Anyway, I decided to go back into my room to see if Big Idea gave me a follow-up email. And sure enough, they did. Here's what they said. Dear fans of Veggietales, it has come to our attention that there are some illegal fake VHS tapes made out in our older Veggietales episodes that have been going around in places like flea markets and lesser-known selling websites, with the results being stuff in it that's bad, depressing, or just very disturbing. We at Big Idea would never make something as messed up as what is seen on these bootleg tapes. We are taking legal action to get these videos banned and destroyed before it affects unsuspected children. We hope you understand, and if you ever feel scared, pray to God and He will be there. With love, Big Idea. Huh. Suddenly it all made sense now. There's random people going around and creating fake VHS tapes that show disturbing material, and the seller who gave me the tape probably got it from a flea market. I did some more research, and I found out that the flea market was called Cheap Cheap Market, and was known for selling various bootleg VHS tapes like most flea markets do. I couldn't believe that the tapes were able to be sold like that, no matter how carefree flea markets are when it comes to people selling stuff. After finding out about the flea market, I decided to look up who decided to sell those tapes, and I found out that a hardcore demonist was responsible for the various episode. He was thrown away in jail though, and so at least there's nothing to worry about anymore. Still though, why would somebody do those things? If the answer is personal gain, then the person is truly terrible. Does he do these kind of crazy things? Are they born like that? Did they become something else? God, what is it? What can I tell you? Though, is that I called my best friend Damian Boyce from North Carolina about what I've experienced, and it turns out he went through something similar as well. I'm gonna book some tickets to North Carolina so that we can discuss this in person. Hi, I'm Gabriel. In case you don't know, I witnessed a possessed Veggietales VHS tape 5 weeks ago. I tried to forget about it by heading over to Sky Zone, but while I was jumping on a trampoline, a note appeared on that said, "God made you special and he loves you very much." I was very dumbfounded. The message on the note was the exact same thing that the email from Big Idea said at the end of the reply message from my email. I decided to post my thoughts on whatever happened to me on the Goshea's Lost Episode Wikia, and right after it was done, there were two other people who went through the same tragedy that I did. Their stories were called Veggietales 1993 and Veggietales Changed Matters. So I decided to go and check those out, and I realized that there were more people who had went through a similar phase that I did. One of them was on the brink of, offing themselves, even. I didn't know the name of the first person, but I did catch another name called Damian Boyce. He lived in Charlotte, North Carolina, so I decided to take a drive all the way there. I decided to go speak with them because I had no idea where the other guy lives. As of writing, I'm currently in Charleston, South Carolina, and on my way to find Damian. And I'm going to speak to him if it's the last thing I do. Charlotte, North Carolina. Apparently my best friend is coming over to help sort out some of the problems I've been going through. Fortunately, however, it's not just me who's experienced these things. There's a wide variety of people on the internet who have as well, and it's all stored on a wiki called Goshea Lost Episode Wiki. I have no idea who Goshea is, but I'm still excited that I did find this site. Apparently there's tons of Veggietales related stories out there, including the years from 1993, which my best friend Mark told me about, 1994, 1996, 1997, which was a terrible story, and heck, even 1987. Heck, not just Veggietales, there's all kinds of stuff too. Sonic, The Loud House, Max and Ruby, the list goes on. This was all interesting, but I needed to know who these people actually were. The most important I could gather was from a YouTuber called The Shadow Reader. Apparently, he's narrated my story as well as Mark's. There's just one problem, though. He's from the Goshea world. In my universe, the real world, in case you're wondering, all the creepypastas are sometimes real and sometimes fake. But in the Goshea world, they are all made by real authors and storytellers. Or at least, that's about as most of the information that I could get. Holy crud, what was that? I just heard a strange, loud booming noise. It sounded like it was coming from outside. A portal opened up and it revealed to be Mark, some kids named David and Gabriel, Otterton and some other people who I couldn't identify. How did they get here? Why are they here? Good God, I have no idea. We need your help, they all said. I didn't want to ditch my father, so at first I rejected their offer. Unfortunately, however, they weren't asking, so they just dragged me along, and I went into the weird portal which took me to the Goshea world, apparently. What were the origins of the portal? I really have no clue. The Goshea world. Gabriel's perspective. Apparently the Goshea world is a dark, bloody red, gloomy, and full of all sorts of people who write a ton of stories to be narrated by this one dude called the Shadow Reader. Otterton, as my traveling buddy, seems to know a lot about him. So we decided to see him first. Unfortunately, however, he was very hard to get to, so we had to take some caution before approaching his army of shadows. In case you're wondering, he was situated in the center of the Goshea world. His job was to judge creepypastas based on their quality, creativity, and if they're not using any cliches. This all seems simple enough, but there's a vast library of creepypastas scattered all over the website. Some good, some are bad. Unfortunately, however, there are tons of characters from the story here, and they look really spooky. I don't know what to think about them. The Goshea's world, Mark's perspective. Okay, what? And I mean, what? The portal, the alternate dimensions, and that creepy VHS tape and the explosion on the plane? What the heck is going on? Look, I'll try my best. I'll give my best possible description of the Goshea world that I can possibly give you. And here it goes. There's a dude named the Shadow Reader who has an army of shadows and judges creepypastas based on their quality and a bunch of other crazy stuff. I mean, of other popular cartoon characters that come to life and scare off anybody that comes their way. Examples include Sonic.exe, Max and Ruby 0004, who constantly go around saying, "Death is our only release," Shadow the Hedgehog, and Two-Face Lincoln Loud. There are, however, tons of skilled authors and storytellers that also hang out on the Goshea world, and some of them even make a living. Others, however, not so much. I still can't believe this is actually happening. Well, at least I kept a journal with me at all times. The Goshea world. Damien's perspective. The gripping blood. The army of shadows. The blackened world. That's probably the best way I can describe Goshea world. 2 minutes in, and I'm already caught myself by being chased by Max and Ruby 0004 screaming, "Death is our only release!" I'm not exactly sure what that meant, but then a giant envelope flew into my face and the text, "Death is our only release." What the heck was going on? I mean, was I about to die? The army of shadows, as well as the several Sonic.exe faces, were all approaching my direction, and I tried to tackle me to death, not knowing why they would decide to make someone their enemy just by looking at them once. I am already not looking forward to what's coming after this. Goshea HQ, Shadow Reader's perspective. "Come along, my little shadows," I said in my dark and menacing voice. "Looks like we've got company." I've already imprisoned Darwin from the Veggietales 1996 story for having his experiences reflected so poorly. I almost wanted to bash his skull apart, but I decided to be nice and imprison him instead. My Legion of Shadows brought in 3 people named Damien, Gabriel, and Mark. All 3 of them were from Veggietales Creepypastas. "Well, well, well, if it isn't the Trinity Trio," I said with a chuckle. "Welcome to my lovely home. Hey, wait a minute. I see you brought Otterton with you." Otterton ran up to me, and I started to pet him. "What a cute little otter you are indeed," I said in a very non-threatening voice. The 3 of them looked at me very strangely, so I decided to continue with my speech. "Now I'm going to have Gabriel and Mark imprisoned for making terrible reflections of their past," I said. "However, keep Damien here because he does have some potential. His stories were actually quite good." I ordered one of my servants, Jyla, to imprison Gabriel and Mark, but I wanted to keep Damien around because his storytelling skills could come in handy. Nobody can make a Veggietales creepypasta like him. Goshea HQ, Damien's perspective. I'm not a fan of this Shadow Reader guy. He's taken hostage to my friend Mark and that Gabriel kid, and now I have no idea what he's going to do with me. He raised his staff in front of my eyesight, and if he was planning on attacking or something, but no. He just ordered a servant by the name of Jyla, who is actually kind of hot, not gonna lie, to come and arrest Mark and Gabriel. I tried doing everything I could do to stop them, but there really wasn't much or anything I could do about it. I mean, the chain's implemented on the ground, therefore there was nothing I could do. The Shadow Reader looked down upon me and said, "I will always have more power than you, for I am Goshea." I had no idea what that meant. I mean, but I guess Goshea was the founder of the universe that people try and hide their identity? Well, if that's the case, then the Shadow Reader doesn't do a fantastic job about hiding his identity. He wanted to use me to exploit my storytelling abilities, which then led me to explain that all actually happened. The Shadow Reader responded with a shocked face and a menacing laugh. After pleading to Shadow Reader countless amounts of times to try and believe me, he failed to accept my claim and decided to imprison me instead of keep me free. He ordered Jayla, which she came back to arrest me, and thus I was locked away in a cell with Mark and Gabriel. "How are we going to get out?" Mark asked. He didn't really know exactly what was going on. "I have no idea," Gabriel said. "I can't believe this is actually happening," I said. Why do bad things happen to us?" So basically I had to explain to them that the Shadow Reader was trying to exploit people in this universe to their creative boundaries while also possibly being capable of pushing them beyond their boundaries. And then I also explained that the real Shadow Reader wasn't a terrible person like the Goshea's World version of him. Apparently, from what other information I've gathered around talking to him, the Shadow Reader here is also a huge fan of the extinction of low-quality stories, and he plans on removing whoever wrote them in order for the Goshea world to be filled with one of the only the best of the best when it comes to creepypastas. After explaining everything, Jyla walked in and started to show some mercy towards us. "Look, I don't want to be here as much as you guys don't want to, but I'm forced to work for the Shadow Reader, Giles said. We began to immediately change our opinions on her as we showed disinterest in her position. Listen, maybe I can free you guys if you keep a low profile. That way, nobody will know that we're here. The three of us, through a bit of regret, willingly agreed with her. So we sneaked past all the Shadow's guards, and let's just say Jayla's pretty fantastic lead, and reached the main hall. We were cornered by tons of more Shadow's guards, but Jayla and her plan of action and decided to attack all the guards with a couple of weapons she brought with her. There were a couple of explosives and projectiles, which I'm quite surprised she brought with her, as she expected to bump into situations like this. The Shadow Reader, observant of what was going on between me, Gabriel, Mark, and Jayla, decided to order an entire army to chase after us because that way there'd be tons of backup if we killed any members of the army. Shadow Reader's perspective. This'll be fun, I said, planning to the attack route of my army to follow. They fought and captured many fugitives before, and this dumb group of parroting dweebs who somehow managed to get one of my servants on board with their plans will be no exception. I was going to capture the four of them. It was the last thing I'd ever do. No one runs away from my plans. Nobody can escape the Shadow Reader. Not a single person. If anything, they should just surrender right now because they have no idea what they're dealing with when I say I want them to be attacked. They will experience more pain than they've ever experienced before. They will suffer the insane power of Goshea's madness. Damien's perspective. We were once again cornered by the Shadow Army, who looked furious, as if they wanted to kill us. Hell, considering this place, this wouldn't be very shocking. But anyway, Jayla was kind enough to decide to give us some weapons and armor to suit up against the ultimate fight, or whatever that was. But anyway, the army decided to attack one of the guards, placing the spear next to my throat. I decided to use my sword that I was given, and Jayla decided to slice the guard in half, as well as attacking many of the other guards, which ended up creating a giant pool of hyper-realistic blood and floating dead remains of their bodies. Gabriel, Jayla, and Mark seemed to be having a great time shooting and blowing up most of the Shadow Army until the Shadow Reader decided to swoosh in to settle things. He prepared a monologue that went like this. My shadows have failed me. They were not powerful enough to face anyone like you. I know what I said earlier, but it turns out that I was wrong. But now, while you're being threatened by me, hear my warning. You will all fall and die a horrible and gruesome death once I slaughter you all. Gabriel and Mark, for your lack of quality storytelling. Jayla, for trying to rebel against my orders and decisions. And finally, Damien, for starting out to be a pretty good guy until you blew your cover before you were put away. That kind of summed up our stories pretty well. Gabriel and Mark didn't go into much detail about what happened in their past. Jayla's a flat-out rebel, and I had a story to tell until Mark came along and made everything dumber by mentioning he witnessed a creepy and disturbing Veggietales episode. It all made sense now. Well, maybe not Jayla's side of the story, but definitely me. Gabriel and Mark all just existed to tell our own stories until we were suddenly brought together by nature. Well, maybe not by nature, but you get the idea. And considering how these people were bashed apart by the alternate version of the Shadow Reader, I needed to show him no mercy. And without restraint, I willingly decided to walk up and slash his head off, hoping to restore the balance to the actual Shadow Reader in the real world, who, let's face it, is a really great guy. Why can't the Goshea version of him be great, though? That's what made me a bit confused. But anyway, the Goshea world seemed to have dissolved, and I killed the Shadow Reader, and we were all in our normal positions after that. Gabriel's ending. Wow, this dude just decided to go and decapitate the Shadow Reader. God, I really hope he's not like that in real life. But anyway, the next thing I knew, I returned home, and I had seemed to forgot everything that happened, until I recently thought about it, which was required in order for me to check in on how things were actually going. Funny enough, though, I wasn't in South Carolina. I was back in my house for whatever reason. This kind of confused me, to be honest, but hey, as long as things were back to normal without any worries to the Goshea's world, that's fine by me. And whenever something like that happens, I always knew that God made me special and He loves me very much. Mark's ending. After the insanely weird thing that Damien did, I found myself standing by the Grand Canyon, right in front of my car. How strange. I remember leaving the Grand Canyon before any of the weird portal plane explosion stuff happened. Couldn't document that because when it happened, it was a freaking explosion. I had forgotten what had happened over in Goshea world, and I just kept having to think deeply about what happened, and then to order to get some sort of reflection on what had happened. The Shadow Reader in real life isn't that bad of a person, is he? I mean, a lot of people really like him, so at least he has that going for him. But anyway, I stood by the Grand Canyon watching the beautiful sunset as minutes passed, and all I was thinking was the quote from the end of every Veggietales episode. God made you special and he loves you very much. Epilogue, aka Damien's ending. I reunited with my father and we were happy to see each other. He gave me a big hug because he was worried about what I had gone through the past couple of hours. It all felt like a daze. I didn't even know why it happened. Guess the Shadow Reader doesn't have to live with himself in the Goshea world anymore, now that he can return to doing normal things that he liked doing in the real world. Narrating creepypastas and giving good criticism feedback. He doesn't abuse people or hold people hostage just because they wrote a bad story. He just tries to educate people so that they can learn from doing right or wrong, as well as making good choices. But anyway, me and my father decided to visit the grave of my mother again, as we do every month. I'd like to bring a bouquet of flowers with me each time. We drove to the graveyard, and after some watching, we spotted my mother's grave. Funny enough, Jyla, who happened to know about my mother's death, was standing there. She gave me a pat on the back and said, "Things like this happen all the time. Don't let it affect your life in a negative way." Then she smiled and said, "Change matters." I took her advice. I can't help it. I always get teary-eyed whenever I approached her grave. But anyways, I slowly walked over to the grave and dropped the bouquet of flowers that I had brought with me and then whispered, "God made you special and he loves you very much. And if he's taking good care of me, then that's all that I can ever ask for." And that, my little shadows, was VeggieTales' lost episode, Goshea's Madness. A, VeggieTales themed lost episode slash creepypasta slash best story ever. I am not going to deny the fact that I was pretty hesitant reading this story. First time around. But I have to be completely and utterly honest when I say that this was one of the best things I have read on this channel. Oh my gosh, I love this story. This was probably the best thing I have read so far. I mean, I was not expecting all of this. I was not expecting me to be the villain and everything in this pasta. Oh my god, people. I love this. I love this story. Like, I love it a lot. I mean, how much do I love it? I love it. I genuinely love this. I mean, wow. Just... I'm... I don't really... what... Ugh. Hang on one second. Let me get a drink here. This was everything. This was truly and utterly everything that I love. Genuinely speaking. I mean, this was, like, alright, before I get into that, let's actually read the ending part here. It says, "Thank you guys so much for reading. If I haven't said this enough, then I'm going to say it again. This was incredibly stressful to write. I stayed up until 1:30 in the morning writing this thing. So in total, I counted, and it took me 5 hours and 16 minutes just to write the story. Whereas Change Matters only took me 1 hour and 32 minutes to write it. God, this was stressful. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. But if you're not satisfied with the story, don't worry. I have plenty more other neat stories you can read, so click them all." This is awesome. I'm being completely serious, too, when I say this, author. You did a very good job with this pasta. Like, genuinely speaking, this was awesome. There is so much amazing awesomeness. Yeah, this was really good. I like this pasta. I genuinely did. I really, genuinely liked it. Like, completely and utterly amazing. Yeah. Great story. You know, Blondipasta, you did a great job with this pasta. I am 100% happy with what you have given. The grammar, awesome. The storyline, epic, awesome, fun, crazy, and actually blended in quite well to my surprise. And to make matters all the better, I would read this a million times. I love this. I love this pasta. Dude, Blondipasta, you did a great job with the story, man. I give, like, no joke. I like this. I'm sorry this isn't much of a review, but I mean, this is a perfect pasta, people. This is like top-notch, grade A, under A quality kind of pastas in a good way. Now, all right. Are there any negatives? Nope. I got no negatives to sit there and say about this story. I've got nothing to say that is negative about this creepypasta. It's just awesome. I mean, it's obvious it's not meant to be taken seriously, but it's still awesome. I have nothing else more to say, but this was great. This was a great story. Great storyline, great concept, very interesting, very fun to read, and just downright awesome nonetheless. I mean, Blondipasta, you did a great job making this. I mean, I know I've said it so many times before, but I can't praise you enough with this. And the fact that you thought that this story was bad? No, this is beautiful. Better, well, I wouldn't say it's better than every other story that you've done, but for this being like probably one of the craziest creepypastas I've read on this channel so far, with the exception of O. Patrick, this is by far one of my favorites. Like, genuinely speaking, a huge favorite of mine. You ought to be extremely happy with yourself for how amazing this story is. But like I always say, and like I always will continue to say, this is simply my own personal opinion, and if you disagree with it, that's perfectly fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions in regards to these creepypastas, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of the story? 10 out of 10. Beautiful. That's all I have to say. What did you guys think about this creepypasta? Did you guys enjoy it? Did you guys not? And also, what would you have personally done to help make this story a lot better? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. I'm the Shadow Reader. Thanks again for watching today's episode, and if you're brand new here to this channel, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. And of course, like always, roll the outro because I'm out.
As your eyes widen, your mouth goes dry with each battered breath. You try to scream, your mind begs to leave, glued to your computer screen. The killers they slash, the tapes burn and crash. The cartridge you bought will be your final haunt. The rituals of hate will seal your fate. The tears you shed will be from the fear-gripping, horror-driven, nightmarish, gore-filled, terrorizing, hateful, burning, violent, rage-inducing, knife-slashing, blood-splattering, silent screams. Only time will tell if you will escape this online hell. Your horror-filled obsessions will come with its own regressions. Your pathetic screams will not be heeded in any way, because your nightmares will come at any day.